Yeah, sorry about the many, many technological issues, man.
It's all right, man.
But after rebooting my computer, well, technically only once because apparently when you own a MacBook, it's like you have to have proper login information to restart your own computer. I got the sensation that I'm a brand new man.
Knew that was coming.
And welcome back, everybody, to the best music podcast on all sides of planet Earth, from Ukraine to Uganda. This podcast is called Hey Listen to This, and it is hosted by two dashingly good-looking men who share the same middle name. I'm the one. I'm the only. I'm the one who's going to advise you to wear proper gloves while handling bleach. Ryan James Kearns.
And I am the one, the only, the one who will tell you to wear proper headgear while listening to this kind of country music, Matthew James Durzik. And for those of you who don't know what this show is all about, basically, me and Ryan look at each other every week and say, hey, listen to this. And what that entails is going through an album of our choice, track by track, picking out what we like, what we don't like, what we think could have been done better, what we... I don't know if there's a situation where we say what could have been done worse, but I guess there's a situation for that sometimes. You never know. And for the past few weeks, we have been going down the road of, as Ryan calls them, our DEI initiative. We went through 4 albums through Black History Month, 5 through Women's History Month. And Ryan, what did we finish off Women's History Month with?
We finished off with the 2007. I want to say colossal, but it was definitely an important record in terms of female fronted emo acts. And that record is Riot by Paramore. And for me, I walked away from the review with a foundational respect. Not that I didn't respect Paramore before, but it was nice, sitting down with one of their records, one of their most important records, and dissecting it from head to toe. And for a full analysis of that review, dear listener, whatever app you're listening to us on right now, just take a look at where you're at right now in our episode, lineup here. Just go one episode prior, and you'll find that review right there.
Yeah, I'm glad we took that listen too, because I had not really familiarized myself with Paramore before then, and there were some good songs on that album. And just as a slight side note before we get into this week's album, at work today I heard Avril Lavigne's Girlfriend, and in the back of my mind while listening, thinking, oh, Hayley Williams just ended her career with Misery Business. Because that song is basically just a revamped, better, more professional, cutthroat version of Girlfriend.
In an alternative reality, Hayley Williams wrote Misery Business about Avril Lavigne.
I like the way you think.
I mean, I don't think that's actual reality, but I would love to live in that reality. I feel like that's the correct timeline.
Yeah. Either that, or she was just like, you know what? I feel like ending a career today. This is by Not Like Us. So shifting gears over to this week. This week, it is my turn to pick, and we are going to be talking about a genre we have not yet covered in the year of 2025, and that is country. And we're going to be talking about the album Brand New Man, the debut album of one Brooks and Dunn. Now, what is a Brooks and Dunn? Well, I just happen to have the liner notes to this album in my hand. I'm going to cite this verbatim because this is what they want you to think is the origin story of Brooks and Dunn. The heat rose in silver waves as far as the eye could see across a sun-scorched horizon. The asphalt seemed to float endlessly out into the desert sand. 2 men, one wandering from out west, one riding up from down south, met at a fork in the road. Both men, worn yet determined, stood gazing off into the distance, hardly noticing one another. Cowboys? Kinda. What's your name, partner? Asked one, slapping the dust off his breeches with his just as dusty hat. Name's Dunn, replied the tall, lanky drifter. Yours? Brooks, comes a slow, southern reply. What brings you out here? You know, said Dunn. How far you going? Shot Brooks, with a piercing squint in his eyes. Far as I can, shot back Dunn. Looks like you've been through one, said Brooks. Back at you, replied Dunn. Tracks leaning off in this direction. Let's say we ride together for a piece to see what we turn up. All right. And that's the story.
I feel like that should have been the intro, man.
It should have been, but I did not tell you about this, so there you go. Realistically, though, what actually happened is probably a lot less majestic than that. As also said in the liner notes, under their thank yous, they thank a guy by the name of Tim Dubois under the guise of "It's all your fault." And I looked it up, and Tim Dubois is the man who suggested to the two of them, hey, you two should get together and form a group. And so they did. In the late 80s, probably roughly around 88, 89, they got together and started working on some things. And by 91, they had their first album, which is this. And little did they know that this album would go on to go 7 times platinum. So this is a big one. Like, this is one of those albums that seems to be a foundation of 90s country. And there's some songs on here that still stand the test of time. We'll get into those. Again, spawned, I think, it did spawn 4 number 1 country singles and a 5th one that landed in the top 10. And there are only 10 tracks on this album. So half of this album went into the top 10 and 40% of it hit number 1. That's pretty good.
I'm kind of curious to see what tracks were, the big, like what tracks went number 1. Because I can probably tell you at least 2 of them off the top of my head, which would be Boot, Scoot, and Boogie, obviously, and then Neon Moon.
Okay.
I don't know the other 2.
Well, we'll get to those, but I will sort of spoil right now and say you are right about those 2.
Okay.
those 2 did go to number 1, and we will discuss the other 2 when we get them. My relationship with Brooks and Dunn, pretty set and square. I grew up listening to 90s country, grew up listening to stuff like Y108, K105, and my parents had several country CDs, this being one of them. So I became very familiar with a lot of the big tracks off of this album, and they're still part of my conscience still today. And really, aside from that, I've listened to some other Brooks and Dunn stuff, listened to stuff off their second album, a couple tracks off their third album, some singles here and there, like their cover of B.W. Stevenson's My Maria, That Ain't No Way to Go, She's Not the Cheating Kind. One of their biggest ones, which was Ain't Nothing About You from 2001, which I think stayed on number 1 for like 6 weeks, which is relatively unheard of in country because for the majority of the 80s and 90s, if you had a track that lasted at number 1 for like more than 3 or 4 weeks, it was a miracle. Because I don't know how much you know about Nashville. I don't know a whole lot, but from what I know, the game is pretty rigged down there where everybody gets a shot. If the song's like even considerably a hit, there's a good chance it'll go number 1. It'll probably drop to like number 19 the following week, but it'll get to number 1 somehow. So it's a weird thing. But Brooks and Dunn has had a lot of big hits, and again, the fact that their debut is as loaded as it is says something.
And my experience with Brooks and Dunn is, I know Boots, Scootin', and Boogie.
And then there's this episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I feel like in a phantom dream, I might be aware of Neon Moon, but I couldn't tell you like another song. I think, was it like My Maria or Oh Maria that you?
My Maria.
My Maria. Okay. I think I know of that as well, but like, yeah. I couldn't tell you like another song from their discography. And like, to be perfectly fair, as we discussed several times within our like little project here, like country's not in my wheelhouse,
Right.
but I do have like a foundation of country thanks to like a this project we have here, and B, like for those of you who are super fans of like our show here, first of all, thank you. Second of all, like you probably like you might be aware of our second episode ever, where essentially we spell out like our musical journey, and like I did go through my country phase, but Brooks and Dunn was kind of a, I don't want to say a blind spot, but like I knew that they were important, and they were there.
What time period was that?
Where everybody was into country music post 9/11.
Okay, so that would explain why, because there are a couple of songs that Brooks and Dunn did around that time. Like I said, Ain't Nothing About You. I think Red Dirt Road was another one that were big around that time. But for the most part, they were sort of on the outs of their popularity. Like they were sort of on the back end. Whereas the big names of that time were probably Alan Jackson, Toby Keith, Kenny Chesney especially. A lot of the more modern sort of like heroes of country music that sort of helped define not just the remainder of that decade, but the 2010s as well. More so Toby Keith and Kenny Chesney, not so much Alan Jackson, who sort of peaked a little bit after 9/11 and then sort of slid down, because he was more or less bigger in the 90s, like Brooks and Dunn, like Garth Brooks, like Reba McEntire, although Reba is more or less timeless. All that to say, I can understand why Brooks and Dunn didn't quite land on your radar, because they weren't the biggest act post 9/11.
Fair enough, man. But like with every episode, I approach the experience with like fresh new ears, with unrelenting optimism. And yeah, I think I'm ready to get at it here.
I think so too. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are going to be, because this is not the first time we've done 90s country on this show. A few months ago, we did Wynonna's debut album, or debut solo album, and that, for the most part, was well appreciated by both of us. So, but this is a little bit of a different animal. And to start things off, we have the title track, which is Brand New Man. And right out of the gate, you get that powerful harmony on the chorus that leads the song off, with Ronnie Dunn and Kix Brooks, the two men who make up Brooks and Dunn, singing the lines, I saw the light, I've been baptized by the fire in your touch and the flame in your eyes, I'm born to love again, I'm a brand new man. And it just kicks into this, full band effort that is relatively powerful and very much studio work by Nashville musicians. Most notably of that is drummer Lonnie Wilson, who not only does a good job on this song, but if you look up any like hit from the 90s, there is a more than 50% chance he was the drummer, because he was just the guy in Nashville. In a lot of ways, seemingly one of the more successful drummers of all time. But aside from that, this is a pretty cut and dry lyrical theme song. It's about a guy saying, I met you and my partying ways are done. I'm a brand new man. I'm settling down. I'm not going to be that wild card going out to the bars anymore. And yeah, it's not really rocket science to figure out what the song's about, but performance-wise, it is great. Again, that chorus is very strong. Ronnie Dunn's vocals on the verses on his own are very strong. The guitar solo kind of reminded me a little bit of the song I Fought the Law from Bobby Fuller, sort of that very sort of one note, but very rhythmic, keeping up the intensity levels. The harmonies, again, on the chorus, and also towards the end of the second verse where they sing, we're right on track, I ain't looking back. Like, that's a great moment. It was tough between this and another song as to which one I was going to have in my top three. And at the end of the day, I decided to go with this one. This is in my top three. At number three, and for full disclosure, I have a top three and a bottom nothing.
And for me, I have a top three and a one single bottom track.
One bottom track. All right.
But like with all episodes, we'll get to it when we get to it. But like with this track here, the way that I went about analyzing the tracks off this album is I looked at it from the country music lens that I put on whenever I'm listening to the country music. And country music is supposed to tell a story. And one thing I do like about the lyrics here, like they do a solid job painting a picture of the narrator pre-love, and like just how like this love has impacted him. Like it's a very clear picture, and I do like it a lot. I do like, especially the lyrics in the chorus when the talks about like being baptized in the fire in your touch and the flame in your eyes. Like those are very passionate lyrics. The song nature, I have to keep in mind this was back in 1991, so like I've heard a lot of songs like this before. Primarily like most notably when we did the Toby Keith review, like not a direct one-for-one comparison, but it's basically, oh hey, I used to be a cowboy, and now I'm in love, and like things have changed. But by the way, if you were curious about that, we reviewed "Bullets in the Gun" by Toby Keith. Lord rest his soul. Go check out the review if you're curious after listening to this review here. But in terms of song structure, I do like how it opens up with the group, like the duo singing the chorus of the song. Like it's a good definitive way to kick off the whole album. The verses in the chorus though, like especially the verses, they're pretty run of the mill, like 90s country. I do like the bouncy nature of the chorus, though, especially when they hit the lines, "Born to love again, I'm a brand new man." Like I like that. That's a nice free flowing nature. But overall, like this song's it's good. It's a good way to open up the album. I do appreciate it for what it is, and it does set a somewhat of a theme here in terms of like what this album's going to be discussing. I mean, I always try to look at an album through a lens of sequencing. Maybe I need to turn that off every once in a while.
I was gonna say, like, I appreciate that, and I will say, like, doing this show has made me sort of start doing that, even with albums like this. Even when at the end of the day, there really isn't a super major theme throughout it. I mean, I will say there is a basic, like, it seems like there's a basic setting and basic, like, broad themes. Like, there's not an exact story or a back lore or, a prequel that's coming down the pike. Like, no, these are two guys, who are cowboys. They go to bars. They dive between love and lust and put it on the record. Yeah. So
I would say for the most part, like the majority of the songs, we're talking about like relationship focused material. So if you're ready, I'm gonna kick off the next track here, which is my next Broken Heart.
Before we do that, I will go ahead and spoil the other part of this, which is that Brand New Man and My Next Broken Heart were both number one songs.
So that completes the quadrilogy?
The superfecta, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the four number ones. So My Next Broken Heart. We get a change up in tempo and style here. It's more of a blues country boogie kind of feel to it, and I do like that. It's a nice touch. Vocals are sounding really solid. Overall, this song is basically like, hey, I'm working on my next broken heart. I'm working on my next hurt. And I kind of like it in terms of like just going through the cycle of like getting hurt again, and take a look at that kind of theme there. It's kind of sad, man. Oh, yeah. Like the chorus has some great lines about how the narrator thought the ex-partner would be the death of him, but he met somebody who wants what's left of him. And you think about like, oh hey, my life is over. I'm never gonna meet anybody, but you come across somebody who wants you. But if you look at it from the contextual lens of, hey, I'm working on my next broken heart, you're coming at this relationship with the fact of, oh hey, like this is just gonna end up like the same as the previous ones. Um, Other than that, like, a couple moments here or there that I did like. I did like the guitar adding random licks at the ends of phrases. I'm always a sucker for that, like the little details. And just I do appreciate the instrumental break. Like, throughout the whole album, like, the instrumental breaks are pretty solid. They do a good job breaking up, like, the flow of the track and that, like, showing off the skills of the band. But yeah, pretty much as a whole, My Next Broken Heart, it goes in the good song bucket here, right alongside Brand New Man for me.
But neither of them are in your top three.
Correct.
Okay. This is not my top three either, but I would put it in that good song bucket right along with you. I pretty much agree with a lot of things you said. I do like the honky tonk swing that replaces the straight four on the floor of Brand New Man. Lyrically, it's about a guy looking for a romantic rebound that is probably going to doom him again, like you said. A fool's game, if you will. Which is weird because, not that country hasn't always done this, because it very much has. But for a song so, like you say, kind of sad in its sort of repleteness to be as bouncy and as upbeat as it is, like, this is a sad song about a sad person, yet you're just like, just like, what the hell's going on here? But at the same time, it is a great song in that regard. I could absolutely see why it became a number one hit, because hook is good. Dunn sings quite well yet again. The harmonies on the chorus, are perfectly dialed. It just didn't quite land in my top three because, again, it just, if anything, it felt somewhat redundant thematically with Brand New Man. Not like completely redundant, but it just sort of had the same sort of structure. It felt like again, the swing is a nice change of pace, but aside from that, it does have a familiarity that was already established not 3 minutes ago. So, it doesn't quite hit the same note second time around, but it does sound really good. So, probably put this towards the top half of the album, like maybe around like a 5 or 6, if we're ranking them straight through.
It's interesting that you mentioned how, like, this track here, My Next Broken Heart, is, like, kind of almost following the same beats as Brand New Man, because, like, for me, like, I definitely separate them contextually. Like, I didn't catch up on that, and you're the more experienced country listener than I am, so, like, it's just an interesting note that I had.
Well, I think lyrically they're distinct enough between each other, but again, for better or worse, like, and I don't say this as an insult, but this is straight from the Nashville machine. Like, this is country that's meant to sell records, and it did. So I'm not going to knock them for it. But at the same time, there is going to be a familiarity with some of these songs, and My Next Broken Heart comes familiar compared to Brand New Man. Maybe not lyrically, but definitely on a sonic level.
So, are you ready for a cool drink of water?
Yes, cool drink of water. Now, this is the first song on the album that has Kix Brooks on lead vocal, and it's a solid performance. Like, his vocal is a lot smoother and less gruff than Ronnie Dunn's, but that's not a bad thing. Like, his inflections throughout the track seem a lot jazzier and a lot more sort of, you can almost seem like fronting like almost like a country swing band almost, in a sense. And lyrically, this track is a change of pace as well, going from dealing with broken hearts or, baptized love to a bit of a wild card woman who starts off the track by pawning off the engagement ring for a party dress and goes to a nightclub and turns everybody's heads on the dance floor. And then at the end of the song decides, hey, I'm going to go doing 90 in a 20. So, yeah, she is crazy. She is crazy, and he's crazy in love because he refers to as a cool drink of water, despite the fact she might be the devil's daughter. Which is basically to say, listen, she's crazy, she's nuts, but there's just something about her, man. And that's not necessarily the worst subject for a song. It's certainly one that makes the song interesting. And I will say, like, there are moments, particularly at the ends of the verses, where Kix Brooks with the backing vocals go, there's a blonde on the dance floor turning everybody's head, or but you didn't get a ticket, just a number two. So I like those moments. I thought those definitely like pushed the levels of the song to an interesting height. It did not crack my top three, but I will say, like, with every repeated listen, like, it got more fun to listen to, and I did sort of put this in the same category as my next Broken Heart, sort of like right in the middle of. It goes in the good song bucket for more or less.
So this actually did crack my top three. So we're starting the trilogy here, man. We're starting with the second one though. So this was number two on me.
Number two, all right, I dig that.
Yeah, and it's for a couple different reasons. A lot of the reasons that you already touched on. I really love the lyrics here. I'm not going to really step on your toes so much because you did an excellent job spelling out there. But like this song definitely does its job in telling a very effective story. And again, you mentioned the vocals and like how everything, like, it's a very interesting performance. I just love how it's like so focused, and it works well with the instrumentals, with all like the off the cliff moments where, like, it just hangs off, and like, yeah, that was a terminology that I'm going to use, like, maybe going forward in our reviews here. And another thing I liked about Cool Drink of Water is just the vocal harmonies as a whole. Like how just the way that they sounded, and like you can really picture that this kind of track would be sung in a bar where there's a woman who's dancing on the floor that is a cool drink of water. And another thing that I did like here in a cool drink of water that really just put the track over the top for me is the instrumental feature that features a piano, and it's dueling a guitar. Like, I like that, and like that comes up in a couple different points in the track here. But yeah, tells an excellent story, great performances, great instrumentals. Yeah, easy number two for me. Cool drink of water.
I respect that, man. And honestly, like I said, this track is fun. Like, it definitely has, like you say, that sort of nightclub feel to it, where you can see the band on stage sort of like narrating things as it goes along. I mean, they did not release this as a single for kind of obvious reasons, but maybe not so obvious. But yeah, I could easily see like the video of this, if it ever existed, being something like this. But yeah, just has that jazzy feel. Definitely has that, like you said, the solos throughout this album are good, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm ready to move on to discuss, like, why am I cheating on the blues?
I don't know. Why are you cheating on the blues?
I mean, I've never been a fan of St. Louis in the first place, so Gloria. Sorry.
Wow.
That door was right there, man.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, like, when it comes to cheating on the blues, I do like the concept as a whole, where the song is centered around finding happiness and sadness, and like you get lyrics where he's talking, like the group is talking about, we stopped living when they said goodbye, we've been faithful to these blues, but I've had enough, how about you, but don't you think we've earned the right to go cheating on the blues tonight? Basically saying, like, hey, we've lived in sadness for long enough. Why don't we just do something about it? Let's go find happiness out in the town tonight. And the whole track basically opens up with, he left you, she left me. So, like, they're finding misery, and like they're they're finding company in their own misery, and they're like, well, hey, we both have a broken heart. Let's go out in the town and have some fun. Overall, the song is pretty solid. I do like the vocal delivery again here. It has a old school country blues feel to it, which always speaks to me. Um, Strings are solid here throughout the track, and I do appreciate the piano part that's coming in at the second verse. And yeah, just overall, it's a very fun track for me. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it outside of those notes, other than this did land in my top three
Really?
at number three.
Oh man, wow, that's a bit of a shocker because I'm not gonna lie. Again, I don't have any bottom tracks on this album, but this is one of those ones I'd probably put at the bottom tier.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I do agree. Like the performances are good. I think Kix Brooks once again does a good vocal job. And you're right. It definitely does have more of a almost a neo-traditional feel to it. Like I very much thought of like late '80s, like George Strait listening to this, like songs like "All My Exes Live in Texas" or "Am I Blue." Very much sort of song that probably would have been easily recorded in the '50s or '60s, but here you have that modern production that goes with it. I don't hate this song. I mean, it does tell a pretty solid story, like you say, of two out of luck lovers just saying, you know what, screw it, let's just have a good time. But ultimately, I just felt like it went in one ear and out the other. Like, it's a fine enough song. It definitely feels, it feels like an album track to me, basically. Like, it feels very much like a track that, solid performances, solid vocal performances, band sounds nice. Eh.
I think for me, what hooked me into this song here was the concept of not letting sadness win and choosing happiness, and that's reminiscent of one of my favorite bands of all time, currently right now at least, the Wonder Years, with the song. Local man ruins everything. Shout out if you know, you know. But yeah, I think it was the storytelling and just the concept of as a whole that shot it up into my top three. Now I know that's a big statement because we have two other big songs on this record, and you're gonna be like, which one did he leave out of his top three?
Well, to be fair, I left one of them out of my top three too, so don't feel too bad.
I wonder if it's the same one.
We're gonna find out very soon. But yeah, no, I can understand that, and just I love the fact that you somehow compared Brooks and Dunn to the Wonder Years. This is why I love this show.
I live to please, man. I come out swinging.
Yes, you do. So if you are ready, I am ready to move on to Neon Moon.
I am ready, my good sir.
So on this album, we move back to a lead vocal performance by Ronnie Dunn, and I'm just going to come out and say it's his best performance on the album, and one of the best vocal performances, I think, of the entire 1990s, which is no small feat. This song, I mean, the way it opens up with those sort of sunset-like guitars just sort of cascading into this even lonelier tale than My Next Broken Heart, where he's singing, "When the sun goes down on my side of town, that lonesome feeling comes to my door, the whole world turns blue. There's a rundown bar across the railroad tracks. I've got a table for two way in the back where I sit alone and think of losing you. I spend most every night beneath the light of this neon moon." So you can easily vision what he's saying there. He's going to this local bar, somewhere in the middle of a small town. Not a whole lot of lights in there. Just got, some neon lights with, different beers on the wall, whether it be Miller or Bud or, God forbid, Dogfish Head. I know it's the 90s, so probably not, but still. And he's just sitting there, just drinking his loneliness away. And the tightrope that he walks between singing about his loneliness and sort of inviting everybody to sort of be alone with him is such a powerful move, and that chorus is beautiful. And one thing that really just sort of set this song over the edge for me was how at the ends of the second and third verse, instead of rhyming directly with smoke-filled room and, instead of just sort of finishing out that rhyme traditionally, he just sort of pleads out, telling my poor heart she'll come back someday, before going back to, oh, but I'll be all right as long as there's light from a neon moon. Like, in those moments, like, she'll come back someday, and on the third verse, this hurt inside of me ain't never gonna end. Like, he's not, like, that's the writer saying, you know what, I'm not gonna rhyme anymore, because it's not pointless. I just need to cry out my loneliness into the dark. Again, just the lyrics portray such a deep loneliness, almost an addiction to feeling blue, feeling frustrated, and sort of dealing with the demons that every lonely person deals with from time to time. The harmonies on the chorus are great. The guitar sounds great. The drums sound great. I mean, I don't think I have to say anything else. This is far and away my favorite song on this album.
All right, I'm about to break your heart slightly.
Oh no, don't tell me.
No, it's not. This is not the bottom track.
Oh, thank God.
But like, this is the between this and the other big track here. Like, this one did not crack my top 3.
Yeah. No, that I'm glad I don't. I was about to set my watch to Fido clock.
Fido clock. I wonder like what app do you use to do that?
I don't know.
But anyways, so yeah, I agree with you. The lyrics are really, really heartbreaking. One set of lyrics I do want to highlight here is the jukebox plays on drink by drink, and the words of every sad song seem to say what I think, and this hurt inside of me ain't never gonna end. Like, this song does do an excellent job of putting you in the mindset of somebody who uses going to a bar as an escape from despair and loneliness. So why isn't it in my top 3? The rest of the song is okay. Like, it's good in its own right. Like, I thought the chorus was decent. It didn't hook me nearly as much as it did you. And the vocal performance is pretty solid. I do like the little touches of the guitar, like the little the minimal guitar lick that's going on in the background in the verses, and I do like the strings in the second verse, and the overall guitar solo is decent. So yeah, the lyrics are top tier, but the rest of the track is just like, it's just there. It's like a guy. It's lonely country music, so like it wasn't doing enough to really take it over the edge. It didn't do enough to really just pop Cheating on the Blues out of my top 3.
Okay, yeah, that does break my heart a little bit, just because I think this song is so like listening to this album. Like there were moments where I was just was banging myself, just skip Cheating on the Blues and go to Neon Moon. You want to, but Cheating on the Blues is not that bad of a track. I do think Neon Moon is great, though, and I do agree, thank you for mentioning it, the strings, particularly throughout the song, and sort of that little, fade out, sort of that, towards the real, way end of the song, I think is a nice touch. Would you at least put this in, the good song bucket?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I can live with that.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that I went at this album without knowing that Neon Moon was a big song. Because it didn't, help me, boost up the song's ranking artificially, if you know what I mean. Because sometimes, if it's a big track off of a record, if I like it, I'm like, oh, hey, yeah, it's gonna go in the top 3.
Right.
So.
No, I get that, yeah. Because you don't want the biggest songs to, just enter your top 3 out of obligation. And we may come across that subject a little later.
So, in the meantime, Matthew.
Yes, Ryan.
If the listener out there, it definitely would put us in their top 3 podcast in their current rotation. And if they're looking for ways to help support us and stay up to date with our episodes, like, what are some ways that they can, do such things so we can keep on keeping on doing what we do week in and week out?
Well, the best way to do that is to subscribe to our podcast on any platform of your choice, whether it be Spotify, Apple Music. We post our episodes to Pocket Cast, also to YouTube as well. If you follow us on YouTube, give us a like, comment on our videos, subscribe so you can, as Ryan said, follow along with each and every episode as it comes out. And if you like what you hear, share the link on your socials, because you could tag us on the likes of Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram as well. If you want to reach out to us directly, you can reach us at ttheylisten@gmail.com. Again, that is ttheylisten@gmail.com. And ttheylisten is our sort of username throughout all of our socials, so that's the best way to find us. Again, share with your friends, share with someone who you think may be into music reviews. And for those who have done this throughout this is, I believe, our 73rd episode, and that's not including the discography drafts. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do, because we love doing it, and we love the fact that you're with us doing it.
Over 70 episodes, man. That's bloody crazy.
It is bloody crazy. It might be more... maybe not. I was going to say maybe more episodes than we did at WGV, but I don't think it's quite that much.
Well, we're going to break that record.
Oh, for sure.
Just like Ovechkin's going to break that Gretzky record in.
Yeah. Also, I'm glad you made a Blues reference, because if I'm not mistaken, they've won, 9 in a row?
Yeah. Anyways, pivoting on over to the back half of the album here with Lost and Found. So here we, with this track here, you know what I kind of drew the narrative connection to with the previous track?
What's that?
I felt like this song was a conclusion track to Cool Drink of Water. So in the chorus, like, he's talking about, like, asking about a diamond ring, they just took a look at you, and it just seems like throughout there, like the other set of lyrics that I was trying to reference earlier, but I got fixated on the diamond ring for one reason or another, where she was gone before I got home, she's been getting restless in that big house all alone, I've been up and down these city streets for 3 nights in a row, and Lord, it's hard to find that girl when she's got the urge to go. Like, for me, that girl is that cool drink of water, and this is a continuation of that relationship. And overall, this song as a whole, it has a decent enough chorus, and gonna be honest with you, I feel like this is a highlight on the whole album, not album, track, because that'd be weird if I said, like, the chorus here was the whole highlight of the whole album. And because other than that, like, the guitar licks and the verses and at the ends of phrases are really nice. I do appreciate that. This is very much an album track. It's not a bad track by any means, but we're going to start to get into a little bit of a lull here with my experience with diving into the record, where I'm like, I feel like I've heard this song before, and like I feel like we're getting into the back half of the record where these might be like, deep cuts where it's just like this is padding out the runtime.
I will agree with you that the back half of the album does sort of delve into that a little bit with a few of the tracks. I, however, disagree that this is one of them. I do have it at number 2 in my top 3, completing the top 3.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, I really like this song a lot. First of all, this is going back to Kix Brooks on lead vocal, and I think, just like Neon Moon before, it's his best performance on the album, and very underrated as far as 90s country is concerned. again, I do agree. I love the fact you were able to make that parallel with Cool Drink of Water because it took me a couple listens to realize that myself. I think it's maybe the reference to the diamond ring that got us because now he's looking for a diamond ring that may be the same diamond ring from the song earlier. But yeah, no, I mean, first of all, I think the band sounds great on this track. The way the guitars sort of have that sort of, dusty Western feel to them. The drums sound big and awesome. And the harmonies throughout this song, particularly on the chorus, moments like where they sing, and her unpredictability is what I love about her best. Like the way they phrase it out is great. And the bridge is great too, where they say, she's out there somewhere burning up the night. Somehow I've got to run her down. I'm running out of time. Like the way that Dunn harmonizes with Brooks here is just chef's kiss. It is short but effective there. I think the chorus is really well. And for the record, this song is the one song out of the 5 that did make the top 10 that was not number 1. It stalled out at number 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so sort of in lore of like, and again, this is going back to the Nashville Machine. If a song is like out of the top 5, it counts as a deep cut.
Okay.
Because I feel a lot of people like Brooks and Dunn fans will probably know this song right away, but I feel like a lot of like casual 90s country listeners who listen to like mostly Garth and Rebo probably listen to songs like, oh yeah, or like I don't remember that at all. But I really like the track a lot. Again, number 2, my top 3 is complete.
All right. We haven't completed my top 3 yet.
We have not, but I have a sinking suspicion I know what your number 1's going to be.
You might be calling your shot, but you never know, man. I could pull a wild card. I already did pull a wild card.
You did. I give you credit for that.
What I got to say is about country. I've got a lot to learn. And speaking of that,
hey,
transitions. I'm the king of pivots here.
Transitions, indeed. I've got a lot to learn, and we head back to Ronnie Dunn on lead vocal here, and this is one of his slower tracks on the album. It's got a sort of a slower but warmer sound. This is very much a simplistic song about, a guy realizing that his past relationship didn't work and he's still got a lot to learn. And you talk about sort of the repetitiveness of some of these tracks towards the end. Like this track, I think, definitely leans to that category. Like you get the opening lines, these honky tonks and bright lights used to thrill me. I paint the town and stumble in at dawn, but now there's no one listening for my footsteps. It's winding down to one more night alone. Like you can already hear stuff we've heard on Brand New Man and Neon Moon, and you're just kind of like, we get it, like it's not offensive. Like I don't hate this track. I actually will admit, like as I've listened to this album time after time, it's gotten better, but it doesn't like crack the facade of like this. Like if there's room in the good song bucket, I might leave some room for it. But at the same time, it's like bordering between good song bucket and ordinary album track. The performances I think are really good. I think Dunn sings well. Especially on the chorus where he's singing, I always thought she'd take me back, but she taught me the cold hard fact, when it comes to love, I've got a lot to learn. So, yeah, it's a pretty cut and dry album track for me, at least from a more or less theoretical standpoint. It's good, but it's not like superlatively good.
So, spoiler alert, I feel like this track here is the last one that I'm gonna officially label as just a kind of run of the mill. Like I've heard this track before. The rest of the tracks in the listing here, like they stand out for one reason or another.
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't gotten to the one or the other yet.
Yeah. So we're running out of tracks here, man.
Running out of tracks.
So yeah, like it was interesting that you drew the comparison, or like at least on the sonic level, with this track to Brand New Man and Neon Moon.
Not sonically, but lyrically.
Okay.
Yeah, sonically it's a lot different.
Yeah. Well, like I was gonna draw the through line there too. I'm like, oh, maybe the guy in Brand New Man is like the official story goes, Brand New Man. I've got a lot to learn, and then Neon Moon. So,
Huh?
oh yeah, somewhere, some way, maybe I should do a playlist of this album and
Your own order.
yeah, let's see.
Like Jamie had a couple weeks ago with Chaperone.
Yeah, shout out to that review.
Yes.
If you are listening to this right now and you want to see what what we thought about the rise and fall of Midwest Princess, go a couple episodes prior to this one and you'll find it right there.
Morning, it's 2 hours long.
It's a beefer.
It's beefy.
But getting back into, I've got a lot to learn. Decent enough chorus for me. I was picking up on the strings in the second verse. I did like that. And overall, the instrumentation did do a good job to paint the portrait of loneliness. Outside of that, not really much meat on the bone to discuss. I mean, I do like how the song is centered around the narrator realizing that they have a lot to learn about life, centered around how his relationship fell apart. This is evident in the chorus with lyrics. I thought I had her wrapped around my finger. I didn't think this bridge would ever burn. I always thought she would take me back, but she taught me the cold hard fact. When it comes to love, I got a lot to learn. Yeah, cold reality for our narrator here. I do appreciate the messaging, but just overall, it's a complete song package. Again, it's not a bad track. It's a filler track for me. It doesn't do enough to stand out for one reason or another.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. Like, it's good, but like, it's kind of hard. Like, outside of like the title of the track for me to like remember like how the song goes. Just even thinking about it right now, like it sounds good, but like you're not gonna remember this track.
Speaking about tracks that you're gonna remember.
Here we go.
Yeah. All right. So Boot, Scootin' Boogie. Oh, what a song that basically has a dusty old cowboy grabbing a fish from a barrel and just slapping you across the face with it.
The man with the barrel of fish is back. I appreciate that.
I'm making a canon in our podcast here.
I appreciate that.
So this will, like I said to start out the review, this is the Brooks and Dunn song that I was aware of prior to the review, and it does stand up compared to like the rest of the album here. I'm just gonna start out of the gate and say that this is my favorite song off the whole album, and it's mainly because the lyrics are not a focus here, but they do a good job painting the scene of everyone's going down to this bar and we're just dancing, we're having a good old time, and everybody's here. This song is pretty much a party song through and through. That bass line, that boogie bass line is so fucking great. The chorus is great. The vocal performance is probably the best out of the whole album in my opinion, and it has such a swagger to it that I picked up on that I do love. The instrumentals were solid. It's just a good time of a song, man. I mean, yeah, I have not much else to say. I mean, Boot, Scoot, and Boogie is pretty cut and dry, but what it delivers to the table is so fucking good.
Yeah, so my turn to break your heart a little bit.
Okay.
I do think this is a great song. Did not crack my top three, only because it just barely got beaten out by Brand New Man. But I will agree, the band kicks ass throughout this entire song. Like, they're the focal point. Like, they just, the way the drums, the bass, like you said, the guitar just ripping the floor to shreds. The piano solo is great. The violin, when it comes in, just provides that little bit of chaos. So just on an instrumental front, like, this is a great, great track and worthy of being a single that by itself went 4 times platinum in this country and obviously went number 1 for Brooks and Dunn. Like, how could it not? It's like their biggest single ever. That being said, a couple of things that kept this out of my top three, aside from the fact that I thought the other three songs were better. And number one, I do agree that Dunn's performance has a lot of swagger to it, but I do think at times it does go a little overboard. Particularly like moments that sort of like felt a little clunky to me, like at the end of the first verse when he goes, "They got whiskey, women, music, and smoke." Like, who pronounces whiskey like that, man? And I know it's nitpicking, but I don't care. And on the chorus where he says, "Cadillac, blackjack, baby, beat me out back, we're gonna boogie." Like, it just feels like it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm not going to say, oh, that's terrible. You got to have proper prose and, Shakespearean elegance of Juliet. The hell with that. But it does feel a little on the forced side. And also, and this is where I kind of blame you a little bit for this. We were talking earlier about how we tend to listen to albums like they're full, like, narrative albums from start to finish. And I said already that this album isn't that. That being said, hearing this song after hearing so many songs about the loneliness of going to bars and getting yourself out of the bar scene and trying to clean up your act, hearing this song feels like a relapse. Like, this feels like thematically speaking, going back to Chaperone, like, on the spectrum of bars to go to, this feels like on the exact opposite spectrum of the Pink Pony Club. Just as far as like what you'd be walking into. And it just feels like to hear the song after, especially after a song like I've Got a Lot to Learn, where again, he starts out by saying, "These honky tonks and bright lights used to thrill me. I'd paint the town and stumble at dawn, but now there's no one listening for my footsteps." And what does he do on the next song? Go right back to the honky tonk. So, like, that was a bit of, like, I didn't even think about that until, like, the second or third time. I was like, wait a minute. Something seems a little off in the juxtaposition of this album. But that all being said, this song is an easy, like, number 4 for me on this album. Like, it's a really good song. And it does, I mean, you don't need me saying, oh, Boot Scootin' Boogie's a good song. If you've heard country music any time at all over the last 30 plus years, because the song is over 30 years old, you've heard this song, you probably danced to it at least once. It's earned its place in country music history.
Yeah. So that man who had that fish in that barrel and slapped me with it and went to go slap you, you're like, wait, hold on. I respect the fish, but don't slap me with it.
I'm putting on my fish-free mask.
There you go, man. No, I appreciate your lyrical analysis of it. I turned off that part of my brain whenever it came to like listening to this song here. Like, for me, this song is the equivalent of watching the Fast and the Furious in terms of like, a musical experience. Do I need to turn on the part of my brain that would enjoy Inception for a more of a mainstream comparison there? Not necessarily. Like, they both have their ends of the spectrum. But for me, I dug Boot Scootin' Boogie.
I do too, and that's the weird thing about reviewing this album, is that in the context of the album, it feels like a thematic step backwards and doesn't quite come off as polished as some of the other songs. But I guarantee you that if I hear the song out in the wild, and I know I'm going to once or twice again, I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to turn my brain off and enjoy the hell out of the song, because that's what the song is. It's not, it's not River. It's not Losers 2. It's a song that kicks ass and is meant to kick ass.
Losers 2 kicks ass.
Well, yeah, it does. But you know what I mean. Like, that song goes in the deep, like, thought process of what it's like to, like, live in a society these days. This song's not about that. This song is just, let's party. And it does.
Yeah, true. So, Matthew.
Yes, Ryan.
I've not revealed my bottom track yet.
You have not. And I'm going to take a wild guess and say this song that we're going to be talking about here, I'm No Good, is that track.
Okay. I'm gonna let you set the scene.
Okay, I will set the scene.
Yeah.
And the reason am guessing that is slight bias because, again, I don't have a bottom track, but this one tried. This one started very much with a shaky start, probably like the least enjoyable moment on the album. Because at the start you have this sort of like rinky-dink, almost like vaudevillian type of opening with like the drum clicks and Kix Brooks singing not great because he goes, I got whiskey to keep me warm when the sun goes down, and this godforsaken honky tonk ain't likely to run out. So won't you come on home and save me, stop me before I drown, because I'm no good, pretty mama, when you're not around. Lyrics are fine. Like, the lyrics are pretty cut and dry about, a guy being tempted by everything that's around him when his significant other is away. And he's admitting, listen, you need to come back because if you don't, I'm going to do something bad. So cut and dry, that's what the lyrics are. Again, the opening is not great. And I think the rest of the song, when the band kicks in, sounds pretty good. I do like the harmonies at some points, particularly on that last note of, I'm no good, pretty mama, when you're not around, when it's a full band thing. So, yeah, that, like, the back 75% of this track kept it from being a bottom track, but it got off to a rough start. And yeah, I really don't have a whole lot else to say. Like, this is an album track for sure, and definitely falls into your theory of the back half of this album being full of them.
So I'm gonna start by saying I kind of clocked this when we were talking about Boot Scoot and Boogie, and the previous track before that was I've Got a Lot to Learn, where the guy's just like, hey, I got a lot to learn about life. I can't be in those bars anymore. Then he goes to a bar, and then party, party, party. Then afterward, you get another depressing track. So in my head, Boot Scoot and Boogie can be canon here. Who knows? Like, maybe like, I don't know. Anyways, I digress. So, I was going to make an all hail West Texas reference and be like, this album's about 3 men, 7 states, 14 drinks.
And the best death metal band in all of Texas.
Oh, man. Shout out to that album, man.
Go check out that review.
Yeah, man. Our catalog's pretty deep at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Going into I'm No Good, though. So, it's, overall, on the sonic front, it's pretty passable. Like, it does fall into the bucket of, like, being not bad. Like, I do appreciate the lonely instrumentals. I think I was a little bit higher on that than you are. The vocal performances are solid, because you can definitely tell with the inflection in the voice that it sounds like somebody that's actually had like maybe one too many alcoholic beverages to drink. So like on that front, and plus the chorus being decent, like it's not a bad track. However, the lyrics piss me off.
Oh, okay.
So you were talking about how this man is like, he needs his partner to come home because he ain't no good whenever she ain't around, and he's gonna do something bad. You're a grown man. Grow up. Like, it's because you drink, and then the woman in this town whispering in your ear saying things a man in my condition likes to hear. If you know you have a problem, close the door, make sure no ladies can come to you. If you want to drink your alcohol, make sure you do it at home, and be a responsible man. Because otherwise, I'm sorry, you deserve what's coming to you. So
basically this song is, I slept with 2 women last night, and it's your fault.
Yeah, it's basically saying like, oh, yeah, pretty much like that. So yeah, dude, like, it wasn't until today when I was really, like, listening to the lyrics and really just, like, really just reflecting on them, that in all good consciousness, like I'm a outside of this podcast, I pride myself in my discipline, and if I know that I'm fucking up with something, I change and I learn from mistakes. If I see this in a song and somebody's just trying to get empathy from a listener, come on, dude, come on, like, yeah, do I have to say it?
No, you don't have to say it. I think when you said definitively that these lyrics piss you off, that it gave away. Because you know what, I never would have thought of it that way. But you're right. Like this is a sleazy song, and granted, there have been sleazy songs in country before. There are going to be sleazy songs in country probably for the next few decades, because that's just how. I mean, I could probably name like 5 songs off the top of my head that are sleazier than this track, maybe 10. But in context of this album, I tend to agree. Like, yeah, especially whenever you have songs like "I've Got a Lot to Learn" and "Brand New Man," which emphasize at least seeking personal growth or feeling personal growth. This song doesn't quite cut the mustard. And no, I mean, again, it's too bland for me to get pissed off about, so that's why it doesn't fall into that bottom category. And I know that sounds weird because I feel like something that's that bland should fall that way, but if I'm listening to this album front to back, I'm not skipping this track. It's fine.
To just wrap up a conclusion of "I'm No Good," I hate to say, just the way my brain processed the lyrics, it sunk the track. It's a pretty awful track, because of what it's delivering on the table. If it wasn't for the lyrics, it would probably fall in the not bad song bucket for me. So
that's fair.
So
fair. But I will relieve you of this track and say we close things out with "Still in Love with You."
All right. So this is a track that definitely feels like a roll credits kind of ending here, especially with the the chorus. Me like, "If I had a horse, I'd ride off in the sunset." Just all those different verbiage there. I thought that was a nice feeling that I got. It does have the capability of blending into traditional 90s country with I can easily see this being in the same musical family as something like Reba McEntire, Wyona Judd. Just a lot of country artists probably have covered this big anthemic definitive statement. Not a bad track by any means. I would actually say it's probably one of the more memorable tracks off of the whole album, just because of just how this starts out as a piano ballad, and in a couple of the tracks here, you do have those little moments with the guitar adding licks again at the ends of phrases. I know that's probably a very traditional country thing, or even a guitar based singer songwriter stuff, but I do like those moments. It's a nice moment for the listener to get attached to. And for me, on the thematical sense, this song seems almost like a rehash of "I've Got a Lot to Learn," with the narrator wishing for a way to get his partner to stay. And you get lyrics like, "I'd like to be the kind of memory that makes you want to take me back in your arms again." And maybe for a narrative, through line here, we could get, "I've got a lot to learn," and then, "Boot Scoot Boogie," "I'm No Good," and "Still Love," basically the back half of the record at this point. But, yeah, overall, though, it's a pretty good song. I'm actually going to bump up my mental rating of this track here, because I do remember it just being a very pleasant listen on the ears. It's a good track, and that chorus is definitely memorable, and it was a pleasant experience for me. So it was a good way to end off the album.
It is a pleasant experience. I probably put it more in the category of album track, although I do agree that it being a piano ballad, first just feels unnerving compared to like a lot of the stuff we've heard so far, because most of the stuff we've heard is country that is either about a bar or songs that can be played in a bar. Whereas this very much, like you say, falls closer to the adult contemporary thing. Like this track feels like it's either 5 years too late or about 10 years too early, because it just has that sort of lofty, cloudy sheen over it. I will say, like, just the fact that the chorus starts with "If I Had a Horse" is great. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the Old Town Road vibes that I'm getting from it. But yeah, you just imagine like this guy like getting on a horse, riding into the sunset, and trying to find his lover in this upcoming Lifetime movie, 8/7 Central. But yeah, aside from that, Kix Brooks sounds good. The band sounds good. I do agree the guitar does have those nice little licks, which again permeate throughout this whole album. But ultimately, this falls probably toward the back half of the album for me. It's still a good track. Like it's not a track like worth skipping, but it's also not one that like super stands out for me.
I would honestly probably put it like in contention, as blasphemous as this might be, with like Neon Moon, where like I do enjoy the track. Oh, dear listener, if you could see what Matt just did, if he could do an eye roll so much to send me off into the sunset, he would be doing that right now. So
I had to think about that for a second. I was like, there's no way to hell I would put this track anywhere in the same room with Neon Moon. But I understand why you.
Yeah, but yeah, that I feel like that does conclude the review here, man.
Yes, it does, and we can say those blessed words.
We did it.
We did it. We listened to Brooks and Dunn's debut. We came out the other side, brand new men. So I will go first, and this was a fascinating listen to go through because, again, I known about probably half the songs on this album before starting this review. Maybe I would even make it 6 if you throw in Cool Drink of Water with the other 5 singles, because, again, country radio, it played these songs a lot. And rightfully so. There are a lot of great, big, catchy songs on here, like the title track, like Neon Moon, in my opinion. I'll even throw Boot Scootin' Boogie in there, even though it just barely missed my top 3. My Next Broken Heart was a big hit. Lost and Found was great. And even some of the other tracks, like I've Got a Lot to Learn and Cool Drink of Water, definitely have their own standout moments. And the rest are, again, range from okay to, decent. Like, there's not a bad track to me on this album. There are some okay tracks. Some tracks are kind of meh, but most of them are pretty dang good. And a couple of them, I would say, are even great. So my thoughts on this album as a whole are somewhat similar objectively to the album we covered last week, which is Riot by Paramore. And in that vein, I'm going to give it the same score, 8 out of 10.
So a lot of my thoughts are going to echo what you are saying. Like, for me, you get some really, really good songs like Boot Scootin' Boogie, Cool Drink of Water, and Cheating on the Blues. It's interesting that I came across this review as not being like a Brooks and Dunn fan and not aware of like songs like Neon Moon, and just how my thoughts about that like split from yours. And we both came to the record with different experiences, so purposes of our show, I digress. Overall, though, this album for me, it was a pretty decent country album. Like, you can definitely see that this is very much from the 90s in the genre, and how this album was used as like a very influential landmark for the rest of the genre to explore within the rest of the decade, because this definitely does feel like quintessential 90s country, for better for worse. um I do agree with you. Like, outside of my favorite tracks, the rest of the songs are basically mid to good. Like, you get a good mushy middle. Fuck the song "I'm No Good" on the lyrical front. But yeah, just overall, like, I'm walking away from the review. I actually bumped up the rating just a hair on just thinking about, like, the ending track. And how it stuck with me, and with that being Still in Love with You. So I'm going to give Brand New Man by Brooks and Dunn a solid 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. So between your 7 and my 8, that averages out to a 7.5 out of 10.
Because
Math
works. All people.
All people. All people. And by the way, before we get to our album recommendations, I just want to point out something we haven't. I don't know if this has ever happened before. I think it has. But it definitely hasn't happened in a while. Where our top threes did not overlap at all. There's not one song in your top 3 that matches any of the songs in my top 3.
Look at that, man.
Look at that.
If there's any conspiracies out there that we basically share notes, this...
No, we absolutely do not share notes. We just have ears sometimes. So my next album recommendation, I could have gone in a million different directions with this, knowing what I know about 90s country. But I'm going to keep it very simple, and I'm going to go with the album that you chose against last week in favor of this album, and that is from 1989. It is the debut album of Clint Black called Killin' Time. Much like this album, 10 tracks, 5 of them made the top 10, and 4 of those 5 made number 1. And it's a great album, too. It's got one of my favorite country songs of all time with A Better Man. Other great tracks like the title track, songs like You're Gonna Leave Me Again. Let's say what other ones are on there. Walking Away and Nobody's Home, which were the other 2 number 1 songs on there. There's a lot of great songs on the album, and I would say it does a better job of having sort of a conceptual feel front to back than this album does, like a lot of 90s albums do. So I would definitely give Killin' Time by Clint Black listen if you liked Brand New Man.
So I struggled with next album recommendation here.
That doesn't surprise me.
So, but I kind of did allude to this record earlier in the discussion here. So, and we've reviewed this record in the past with your significant other. I'm going to recommend Bullets in the Gun by Toby Keith. You get a lot of the same thematical elements with that album as you get with this album. Like, Bullets in the Gun is an easy comparison to Brand New Man in terms of, like, what it's trying to get across, but like how love changes everything. I would honestly say probably Ain't Breaking Nothing. You can draw a comparison to the working on my next heartbreak. Like, basically, you get some fun songs, a lot of, like, drinking in the bar kind of songs. And also, like this album, you get another track that pisses me off.
Yeah. So. I was just thinking that. I'm thinking, there's also one other comparison between the two.
But yeah, I would say just as an overall package, if you, dear listener, are looking for what I would recommend, based off of Brand New Man by Brooks and Dunn, it would be Bullets in the Gun by Toby Keith.
So for those of you who have not listened to Killin' Time by Clint Black or Bullets in the Gun by Toby Keith, those are our next album recommendations based off of Brooks and Dunn's Brand New Man. Before we get to your selection of album or whatever you're going to tell me, just out of curiosity, because I'm curious, if you had to choose one song, are you going with Get Out of My Car or I'm No Good?
I'm going to go with I'm No Good.
Okay.
So, yeah. Any other notes about Brand New Man by Brooks and Dunn before we pivot on over to the next album that we're going to review?
No, I'm glad you gave it a good solid listen and appreciate it for what it is. Again, except for that one track. And again, I can't get over the fact that we both had like our different favorite songs. Like we came at it from different angles and came with different conclusions, but a similar sort of enjoyment ultimately.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. Like, I was really taken back whenever you give me your overall like thoughts about the record. I'm like, hey, I'm right there with you, and it might be because of your experience and your background with the album and like the genre as a whole that might have made you really just sink your teeth into songs like Neon Moon and a couple of the other tracks that made you appreciate it a little bit more than I did.
Yeah, but I am curious to see what you got cooked up for us next time.
All right. So, before you are two albums. Both albums I have pretty good relationships with. Both albums I own on vinyl.
Oh.
They're two opposing genres.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you anything else other than that because I might be giving it away.
Okay.
So, I'm going to have you pick between two things, two people. One's going to be a fictional character, and one's going to be very much a real person, a non-fictional character.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to have you pick between Wesley Snipes or Tony the Tiger.
Oh, that is a 90s movie that should exist with those two in starring roles. Wow. What the hell? I'm feeling weird. Let's go Tony the Tiger.
All right, so for our next review, we are going to be going to the year 2009. We've seen this band live in concert before.
Oh.
This album is the second studio album. The album's called Means Everything to Nothing, and the band is Manchester Orchestra.
Ooh. Let's go.
So, yeah. I'm excited to talk about Manchester Orchestra for our next review, specifically this album here.
I am too. I've only been familiar with one of their albums before, which is Cope, but I remember seeing them live at Mr. Smalls, and I remember them doing a damn good job there. So I'm curious as to what this album's going to sound like.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if it's been a minute, or if you've never listened to Means Everything to Nothing by Manchester Orchestra, do yourself a favor. Listen to that album right now after you get done with this episode here. Or, you can wait a day or two. It takes us about a week to, release episodes, so you have some time. But, listen to that album. That way you can familiarize yourself with the record. That way you can have opinions about what the record brings, and you can have opinions about the opinions that we're going to be bringing to the table for next week's review. But yeah, anything else you want to say before we kick this review into bed?
Yeah, just if you don't listen to all, because we've suggested a lot of albums in the past to listen to, whether it's the ones we're reviewing or the ones based on our recommendations. If you can't listen to all of them, don't worry. As long as you listen, we're still in love with you.